Hello everybody, welcome back to MOD Economics YouTube channel. How are you doing? Yeah, hopefully, not even hopefully, this should be our final class on our research writing course, and it's been great, having you guys around. It's been a wonderful experience, and I hope that at the end of this research writing course that you'll find your project writing um, easier to do. Okay, so in today's class we'll be talking about chapter 6. I used to tell you that it depends on your school and it depends on your supervisor, your department, and all that kind of variables. Okay, that would make you know if you'll be writing 4 chapters, 5 chapters, or 6 chapters in your project. But yeah, of course, according to the templates that we are using, we are getting into 6 chapters. So after the 6th chapter, what you then have is your references. Okay, so it's not as if references will form chapter 7. No, when you're done with your 6th chapter, then you move into you make a list of your references according to the references style that you're supposed to use. So you need to talk to your supervisor about that and know the references style that your school uses. So in this particular class, okay, before that, chapter 6, summary, conclusion, and policy recommendation. So here you're already done with your analysis. So you want to summarize your results. You want to summarize all your everything that your project has been about, everything that your research has been about, and it has to be kind of detailed, somewhat not so detailed. It's summary. So your project is probably for something pages, and this chapter is likely not going to be more than 2 pages. Okay, so like detailed in a way, but you have to be able to go straight to the point. All right, so just summarize the whole thing, and when someone reads it, the person has a good grasp of what you've done in your project. So in this particular video, in this particular class, I'm going to be doing a chapter 6 practically. I'm going to be doing quite a number of readings in today's video, okay, so that I'm going to give you, in order to give you a heads up on how to go about what you're supposed to do. So your summary, conclusion, and policy recommendation, 6.1, because it's chapter 6, so 6.1 I have summary of findings. So in my summary of findings, this bullet point, so what should I write here? The study's aim, okay, the variables that I used. Then you talk about discussion of findings, still under summary of findings, okay, or maybe summary or whatever it is I want to use. Then expected result, talk about shocking result, talk about insignificant result. After that, we move to 6.2 conclusion, 6.3 policy recommendation, 6.4 limitations of the study, 6.5 contribution to knowledge, 6.6 suggestions for future research. So you may not have all of these things in your chapter 6. Okay, you may have just 4 or 5 of them, and you may have something else that is not even in the item that I have listed here. So how do we go about summary of findings? Like I said, we are going to be talking about, I'm going to be reading some things, okay, for us. So like an audio version of chapter 6. So for example, we've been talking about inflation, the effect of inflation on Nigeria's economic growth. So how would I write my summary? So I'm talking about 6.1 now. So under discussion of findings, here I'm going to encourage you, okay, when you are talking about your findings, like you should talk about your findings per paragraph. Like we'll get there. Okay, you see what I'm saying? Okay, so the beginning of my chapter 6. So what am I supposed to write? The study aimed to investigate the effects of inflation on Nigeria's economic growth spanning over 51 years, that is 1970 to 2001. Okay, so that's the beginning. Under my summary of findings, I have summary of findings 6.1. Then I'm talking about this. The study aimed to investigate the effect of inflation on Nigeria's economic growth spanning over 51 years, that is 1970 to 2021. Forgive me, that may not really be our scope. I may have forgotten, but let's just assume that we are using 1970 to 2021. Alright, so there were 5 regressors, namely, now regressors is talking about the number of independent variables. There were 5 regressors, namely namely innovation, that was proxied by number of patents, or maybe that was proxied by research and advertisements, research and development expenditure. Okay, then human capital, that was proxied by life expectancy. Then government expenditure. Okay, inflation that was proxied by inflation rate using the GDP deflator. I hope that was what I used. Okay. Then human capital. Okay, I've spoken about human capital. Um, government expenditure on education. I think there was a proxy variable for that, so included, and government expenditure on health. So whatever proxy variable that I had used, I don't remember right now. Okay, so but from the previous slide, I think you should be able to, recall that. So that's it. Okay. Now, and the study also included dependent variables. My dependent variable was just economic growth. That was real GDP, right? Real GDP. So that was just the dependent variable that I used. Now, if you had used, in my analysis, in my project, in my entire project, we used one model. Okay, inflation is a function of this, and this. And I was explaining in one of the classes, maybe on that model building, that you may have more than one model. Okay, model 1, model 2, model 3. So here, if you have more than one model, so you talk about all the independent variables that you used and all the dependent variables that were inside your project. For me, only one dependent variable. So let me just read what I would have written normally as the beginning of my summary of findings. So the study aimed to investigate the effect of inflation on Nigeria's economic growth spanning over 51 years, that is 1970 to 2021. There were 5 regressors, or there were 5 independent variables, namely human capital, namely innovation proxied by research and development expenditure, and human capital proxied by life expectancy. Yeah, I think that was what I used. I think, okay, after that, inflation proxied by inflation derived from GDP deflator, government health expenditure, and government expenditure on education. So proxied by. Okay, so that's just it. So that's my first paragraph. So going into my second paragraph, sorry, inflation was found to positively affect Nigeria's economic growth in the short run. Okay, from my analysis, my results in the previous chapter 5. So I'm just trying to summarize what I got there. Okay, so inflation was found to positively affect Nigeria's economic growth in the short run, suggesting that most of the inflation that was experienced during the period may have been demand pull. Okay, you have demand pull inflation, may have been demand pull, encouraging firms, that's encouraging companies, to increase their level of capacity utilization, employ more workers, etc. And so on. I think we have to avoid the use of etc. in academic work. What's wrong with me? So and so on, to raise supply to meet the surging output demand. However, inflation has a significant negative effect on the country's economic growth in the long run. Okay, signifying that inflation is detrimental to Nigeria's economic growth in the long run. Okay, possibly through unaffordable prices of goods and higher input prices, forcing down the country's aggregate demand and aggregate supply in the long run. So with that, I'm through with inflation. I'm through with summarizing my findings about inflation. So if you go through what I've just said, so I spoke about how inflation affected Nigeria's economy in the short run, and I gave reasons. Okay, so that's what you're supposed to do. Possible reasons. I gave possible reasons, and then I also talked about how inflation, affects Nigerian economy in the long run, and I also gave, reasons. So let me go over it again. Inflation was found to positively affect Nigeria's economic growth in the short run, suggesting that most of the inflation that was experienced during the study period may have been demand pull, encouraging firms to increase their level of capacity utilization, employ more workers, and so on, to raise supply to meet surging output demand. However, inflation has a significant negative effect on the country's economic growth in the long run, signifying that inflation is detrimental to Nigeria's economic growth in the long run, possibly through unaffordable prices of goods and higher input prices, forcing down the country's aggregate demand and aggregate supply in the long run. Okay, so that one falls under kind of expected results. I'm not saying that you should write expected result and then underline it. No, 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 no. You are just talking about, you are just talking about your findings. That's all. Okay. And here I'm talking about what you are probably expected. So you are probably expecting that inflation was going to be um, positive, uh, positively related to economic growth in the short run, and negatively related to economic growth in the long run. So that might have been part of our prior expectations. Okay. So it's not a shocking result. So that's about that. So that's the way you are going to be talking about each variable. Okay, all of the variables that you used. That's what you'll be talking about. So I recommend, I'm not saying it's a must, I recommend that you talk about each variable, per paragraph. Do you understand? So just briefly but straight to the point, so by the time anyone reads it, and the person knows what you were working on. So under shocking results now, So here you might have a variable whose finding, what you discovered about the variable after you finish your analysis was kind of shocking, like it was against your a priori expectation. Okay, so what are you supposed to do? And the result may have been significant. So when I was talking about significantly affecting Nigeria's economic growth, I mean when you check the level of significance, it was lesser than 0.05, it was lesser than 5%. So that was why I was talking about significant. Okay, so you might have results that are surprising, shocking against your prior expectation. So you have to talk about that result. Then here I encourage, because it's a shocking result, I encourage that you conduct further research to find other authors or other studies that also discovered the results that you're talking about here. Okay, so let me give you an example. Under shocking results, like I said earlier, you are not writing expected results, shocking results, and whatever. No, I'm just trying to talk about 3 categories of results that you may have after conducting analysis. Okay, so here I have government spending on health. What would you have expected to be the relationship between government spending on health and economic growth? Government spending on health, that should be okay. When it should be a positive relationship. So an increase in government spending on health would increase the quality of human life in the country, of citizens in the country, and from there you are going to be having a healthy workforce, or a healthier workforce, so which means that people can stay longer in the labor market, or they can stay longer on their jobs, which makes them live long enough to produce goods and services that then boost the country's economic growth. So something like that, along that line. Well, let me read what I have here. So government spending on health has a significant but shocking negative impact on Nigeria's economic growth. However, the results was consistent with the findings of Kadejo et al. 2021, Sunday et al. 2020. You see? So I've tried, this is unexpected. So let me go and look. Are there other studies were there other studies that discover this kind of a thing? So it won't look like, what am I doing? What did I just get? Your analysis may be correct and it may be wrong. It may depend on maybe 1 or 2 things that you didn't do so rightly in your analysis, and it may be that you've done everything right and this is what you are getting. So just find out if there are other studies that have obtained this kind of results that you're obtaining. So I've mentioned that. So let me go over it again. Government spending on health has a significant, that is the variable that used to capture government spending on health, or government expenditure on health. By the time you did your regression, gave you a p-value that was lesser than 0.05, maybe 0.000. That means very, very significant, or 0.001, something like that. So government spending on health has a significant but shocking negative impact on Nigeria's economic growth. However, the results was consistent with the findings of Kadejo et al. 2021, Sunday et al. 2020. This might be as a result of wasteful, this might be as a result of wasteful government expenditure on the healthcare sector, which does not translate into improved quality of life for the Nigerian citizen. Do you understand? So I'm kind of suggesting a possible reason why that might have occurred, why government spending on health may have had a negative impact on Nigeria's economic growth. So going over it again, government spending on health has a significant but shocking negative impact on Nigeria's economic growth. However, The result was consistent with the findings of Cadijo et al. 2021, Sunday et al. 2020. This might be as a result of wasteful government expenditure on the healthcare sector, which does not translate into improved quality of life of the average Nigerian citizen. So that might just be it. Okay, so the result was, unexpected, but now you're trying to suggest a possible reason why that might have been so. So that's that about that. So the same way you're going to do innovation, human capital, government expenditure, and education. I think those are the three other independent variables I've not spoken about. So I've kind of summarized my findings on inflation and government expenditure on health in different paragraphs. So I began with the study aimed to investigate the effects of whatever. That was the first paragraph. Then I spoke about my findings on inflation, another paragraph. Then I talked about government spending on health, another paragraph. So for innovation, a new paragraph, human capital, a new paragraph, government expenditure on education, a new paragraph. If you like, okay, you might decide to support your findings with what other studies have done, okay, ordinarily. But if you have an unexpected result, it is advisable, okay, even if you don't look for any other findings for other results that were unexpected, but for the one that was unexpected, it is advisable that you find other studies that have discover the same that you are discovering here, so that you don't have issues with your supervisor, so that your supervisor does not ask you to go back to your analysis and change something or include one variable for you, or just scatter stuff for you. Okay, so you should be able to defend your work very, very well. So just go and meet your supervisor prepared, or go and make your project defense in a very prepared manner. This was what you got, and so people have obtained this kind of result as well. And I think it is pretty much okay when you are citing other studies. It shouldn't be the study of maybe one person, okay, study of maybe this person and this person et al, that person et al. So that's to make your that's to debate your points, argue your points very well, that okay, these are several authors that also discover this kind of a thing. Because if it were one person, one might want to think maybe it's just somehow maybe the person made a mistake when trying to analyze, or the person manipulated or something like that. But when you have more than one authors, okay, somebody et al, Sunday and Shola 2019, Belumi and Omotayo, okay, 20 whatever, then Shola, Kehinde, several authors like that, okay, and Belumi et al, Rashidi et al, something like that. So if you have those things, it makes your work pretty much okay. So do the same thing for innovation, for human capital, for government expenditure on education. So I'm done with that. Then here I highlighted something about nothing being permanent. I think I spoke about it, that I've been working on a particular research work on trade. Is it on trade? What's the topic now? What's the topic? Oh God. Forgotten the topic. Well, what I realized from that was that okay, after I finished the analysis, chapter, I think it was chapter 4. After I finished the analysis of that work, I discovered that under my diagnostic test, which I spoke about the other time, if you remember, I think we have linearity test, which we use Ramsey reset test to verify if our model were linear or not. Then we have the ARC test for heteroscedasticity and other stuff like that. So when I was carrying out the research, that particular study or that particular research work has 3 models. So while carrying out the research, I discovered that one of the models, the one for balance of payment, was not linear. And if you're looking at the assumptions of ordinary least squares, assumption of your regression normally, it should be linear, even if other things are not correct. Like your regression line should be linear. So I was like, damn, what am I going to do? Okay, so I decided to include another variable into the model, and I tested for linearity again and realized that okay, the model was now linear. So things like that can happen in your project. Nothing is final until you are totally done with it. So what I had to do was okay, this is it. I've kind of included a variable that I did not include in my methodology chapter. So because I've adjusted this here, I need to go back to my methodology chapter and check my balance of payments model and include that variable that I already included in my analysis and include it in my model in chapter 3 for methodology. So something like that can happen to you. So when you run your analysis, you discover that the model that you had in mind for one reason or the other is no longer okay, like it's not fitting, based on it's not meeting the assumptions of the ordinary least squares. Okay, so what do you have to do? Are you going to remove a variable? Are you going to add a variable? Whatever it is that you are going to do, just make sure that after you've done that and everything becomes okay analysis chapter, go back to methodology chapter and adjust it. So it won't be as if you have something different in your methodology and something different in your analysis. All right, so things like that can happen. Sometimes there might be maybe an error in your analysis that may take you back to maybe chapter 1 or chapter 2. You may have to consider what your objectives are based on how your work is going. Okay, so things like that used to happen. So that is more to the reason why I say before you select a project topic, you must make sure that you've done a considerable number of research. Don't think that your supervisor who says you should go and review 20 journals is wicked before bringing a topic up. It's because of experience. The experiences. Okay? You accept a topic, the student goes on to do it, then gets stuck in chapter 3, chapter 5, because of how the stuff is going. The student has hit a brick wall. The person has to be given a new topic entirely. Do you understand? Or has to, for one reason or the other, forgo what he or she has done before and then start again. Imagine, start the research writing process again. So it is what it is. It used to happen. Now, after that, then there's another type of result before I jump. Insignificant result. I've spoken about expected, shocking, and insignificant result. Okay, so here I think I spoke about something else. This is another paragraph, still under summary of findings. The insignificant effect of innovation in the short run. Look at it. The insignificant effect of innovation in the short run. So which means that after I did my analysis, I discovered that innovation was not significant at 5%. So maybe it had 0.7 something. That's obviously greater than 0.05. Or maybe 1 point something, something like, can you have 1 point? I'm not sure. Maybe 0. Whatever, 0.9 something, 0.7 something. So that's way above 5% level of significance. So the insignificance, see the way I put it, the insignificant effect of innovation in the short run means that innovation has not benefited the Nigerian economy in the in the short run. Okay, the insignificant effect of innovation in the short run means that so far innovation has not benefited the Nigerian economy in the short run. Nevertheless, innovation proved to be a significant contributor of Nigeria's economic growth in the long run, and this might be as a result of the time it takes for an economy to embrace innovative products and techniques. Can you see the way I've put it? Okay, the result is not significant. Once the result is not significant, it has no effect. Simple. You don't have to be given any reason. You don't have to be saying a percentage increase in this relates to a percentage increase in that. Was it significant? Yes. You continue. Then interpret it. You may choose to interpret it that way. A 1% increase in innovation led to a 5% increase in economic growth, or in economic growth. So, but if your result is insignificant, you don't need to do that again. That means it has no effect. Okay. So the insignificant effect of innovation in the short run means so far innovation has not benefited the Nigerian economy in the short run. Nevertheless, innovation proved to be a significant contributor of Nigeria's economic growth in the long run, and this might be as a result of the time it takes for an economy to embrace innovative products and techniques. So out of 5 independent variables that I used in my in my model, for the example that we are using, I've explained 3. So it remains government spending on education and human capital. So you can just fill that by yourself. Now conclusion 6.2. Conclusion. So I write 6.2 then the conclusion, and I start. Based on the research findings, inflation is significantly beneficial to the Nigerian economy in the short run only, while it is negatively affecting the country's economic growth in the long run. Okay. Human capital, government expenditure on education, government expenditure on health and innovation all boost Nigeria's economic growth, albeit at different degrees. Okay, so I've summarized, I've concluded like that. If you want any other thing after that conclusion, Try and read the summary of findings. Okay, so that's the essence of conclusion line. You're not supposed to write voluminously under your conclusion again. If you don't understand it, go back to the summary of findings and read it to understand it. So that's that about that. Now, 6.3 policy recommendations. So here, there's something. At least I got this from my econometrics class. Okay, one of the few useful things I got from that particular class. I'm sorry. Now, never recommend a policy outside your independent variables. Don't do that. Don't do that. You want to recommend a policy, so it should be in line with the variables that you use in your model. Now, for example, did I talk about electricity in this work? So if I now say the government should spend more on electricity, or the government should ensure that it develops the power sector in order to help manufacturing industries to produce more kinikon. If you are Yoruba, you get that. But if you are a foreigner watching this video, I'm sorry, just leave it. Okay. So if you say that, well, was there power? Did you say anything about power in your projects? No. So why are you now saying that the Nigerian government should improve on its power sector in order to enable manufacturing industries to have electricity to produce more goods and services than they are currently doing now? So it doesn't make sense. Now, in the same vein, you don't also say that Nigerian government should spend more on security, okay, to curb terrorism, not to provide an enabling business environment for industries. You didn't talk about insecurity in your research, although it's a good point, but you didn't talk about it, so why should you include it? Now, why I'm stating this is that students are very funny. We can be very funny. All right, so you go online, you see a related project, okay, you just copy the policy recommendations. You don't even know what the aim of that research work was, the objective, anything. You just, okay, this is related to what I'm doing. Just copy the policy recommendation, you rephrase it, you reward it, and you dump it inside your project work. That's one way for a supervisor to know if you plagiarized, if you didn't really do your homework. Alright, so if you copied, that's a good way for a supervisor to know. Okay, your supervisor then asks you, was there insecurity in your project? No. So why did you include this? You copied it from somewhere, right? Yeah. So you're not supposed to do that. Now, I've listed some policies here. Okay, you may decide to write policies based on the independent variables. I may decide to just include your policies. You may just write everything like in the same number 1, number 2, number 3, something like that. So my other policy recommendation: 1, budgetary allocation to education should improve, since improved quality of life significantly foster economic growth. So that is, if I discovered in my project that government spending on education positively affects Nigeria's economic growth significantly. Okay, so I'm now recommending a policy to address that. That is, the government should spend more, should increase the budgetary allocation to the educational sector. Okay, number 2, the government should pursue a cautionary, expansionary, or the government should pursue a cautionary and expansionary monetary and fiscal policy to boost aggregate demand in the short run, albeit reasonably, so the country does not suffer hyperinflation. Now that point may not sound so cool to you, so if you can rephrase it, just rephrase it. So what I'm just saying is, in the short run, the government should pursue expansionary fiscal and monetary policies, in order to stimulate aggregate demand, since the study discovered that inflation is positively related to economic growth in the short run. So the government should expand, put money in the hands of people. That takes aggregate demand up, and then people start the demand for goods and services, which encourages firms, to increase their productive capacity to produce more goods. And as they are producing more goods, the economy is growing, because that's economic growth, basically increase in GDP. All right. So, and I said, albeit reasonably, so you don't do it too much, like you don't have hyperinflation, like too much inflation in your economy in the short run. So I've used that one to also address the inflation variable. Okay, number 3, monetary and evaluation agencies, or the proper agencies, okay, or committees should be set up and equipped to monitor government spending on health infrastructure to ensure that the expenditure on health infrastructure is judiciously utilized. In addition, the Minister of Health, Commissioner for Health, and other personnel must be thoroughly investigated to answer for any misappropriation of health funds or funds that are geared to the health sector. Because why on earth